Okay, so welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here. So today we're going to be talking about the performance ceiling that's costing companies millions and how we can actually fix it. So by the end of this session, you will know what's actually holding your people back. You'll understand what that costs you, and you'll know what to do about it. Okay. So, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Michelle. I'm the CEO and founder of WonderSource. And when I was VP of sales at an AI startup, I was doing well, but I had insomnia. And my doctor was telling me to meditate more. But I knew something deeper was going on. So it took me a long time to research, and I came across functional medicine, and testing revealed that my cortisol levels were completely out of balance. And within 10 days of a personalized protocol, I was sleeping through the night. The change was remarkable. But what really stayed with me was, why was I so stressed in the first place? How little support existed for professionals just like me, and how much that gap was actually costing companies. So I went deep on the subconscious mind, on different healing modalities, on coaching. And what I realized is that we don't underperform because we lack intelligence, strategy, or information. We underperform because we've never been taught how to support our nervous system, process stress and emotions in a healthy way, or lead people from a place of inner safety rather than survival. So that's why I built WonderSource, so no professional has to figure this out alone, and no CEO has to keep paying the price. I also just want to add, feel free to leave questions in the chat box. I want this to be interactive, so please feel free to ask questions. So leaders are operating at a fraction of their potential, and it's costing companies millions and the global economy trillions. But it really doesn't have to be this way. So every company wants to grow their revenue, of course. And in 2026, growth was the top priority for 71% of CEOs. But only 20% of CEOs place the workforce in their top three strategic business priorities for the coming years. At the same time, with the state of the world, with Gen AI integration, global political uncertainty, performance and productivity have moved ahead of retention and engagement as top workforce priorities. But wanting growth and productivity and being set up to achieve them are two very different things. So, how many of your highest paid employees and top performers do you think right now are silently struggling with their well being and mental health and are actively looking for another job? Now, you can put it in the chat or you can even just think about it. Okay, you can just think about it. Okay, so 71% of workers describe their mental health at work as poor. 70% of C-suite is considering quitting their job for one that better supports their well-being. And replacing them can range from 50% to 200% of their annual salary, which doesn't even include like the effects of low morale when they leave, all the information they're bringing with them. And only 20% of the global workforce is engaged right now. So there is a massive gap between what companies want and how they're setting themselves up to achieve it. And ignoring this is very expensive. A lot of high growth companies are investing heavily right now in revenue, AI, operations, but leadership that drives everything often remains an afterthought. So the average employee today is losing 49 days of productive work per year, not to illness, but to showing up mentally depleted. So they're at work, but they're just not completely there, completely present. Presenteeism, so working while sick or disengaged, costs the US businesses alone 150 to 250 billion annually, which is expected to be 10x more than absenteeism, so when people are actually off sick. And burnout alone costs between 4,000 and 21,000 per employee per year. So for a 1,000 person company, that's over 5 million annually, plus 15 to 20% of payroll involuntary turnover. Okay. Um, so We believe there are two forces that are quietly capping your leaders. And I'm going to talk, well, there are a few forces, but we're going to talk about two today. So one is the invisible layer, the internal operating system of the people running your company. And the second is modern pressure, AI, economic volatility, constant uncertainty. And all of this is affecting self-trust, confidence, leadership, decision-making, company culture, and every aspect of health and business results. So first, let's talk about the visible layer. Most companies are optimizing the visible layer. This is pricing, strategy, AI investments, hiring and headcount, capital allocation, operations and systems, product development, even in some cases, employee appreciation. But we believe the invisible layer is what's determining how effective the visible layer actually is. So this is the nervous system capacity to receive and hold more of your workforce. So for many people, even basic levels of success, visibility, responsibility, growth, uncertainty bring up genuine fears and a lack of safety. So making a presentation at work, for example, can feel unsafe, or getting a promotion and higher levels of responsibility. All these things bring up fears. Then unprocessed stress and emotions impact how leaders think, make decisions, and respond under pressure. We often shrink, we protect ourselves, we're constantly scanning for problems just to stay safe. Then there's the subconscious programs, which account for up to 95% of our actions, our beliefs, our thoughts, stories like not enough, unworthy, less than. And these are keeping people chronically stressed and operating at a fraction of their potential. Then there's identity and beliefs about self, others, and what's possible, often created in childhood. And if your leader's identity is not aligned with being a successful leader who can handle challenges and trust themselves, someone who is valuable and good at what they do, all their actions and language will reflect it. But it is not the truth of who they are. And there is so much we can be doing to support this. So I'm not going to go in, sorry. I'm not going to go into depth into all of those areas because this is just a short masterclass, but I want to talk about unprocessed emotions and stress because they really drive more performance issues than we realize. A recent Durham University study found that procrastination is driven by unprocessed stress. So we often think it's like laziness or poor time management, but it's actually unprocessed stress. Then let's consider a few other examples. So a leader with unprocessed shame, for example, they may be shrinking, hesitating, not speaking up, not able to accept feedback, procrastinating. APA found that there's a 32% decrease in performance over time as employees shy away from risk taking when there's unprocessed shame. Or, for example, a leader suppressing their anger. They may be people pleasing, overgiving, constantly overriding their needs to the point of exhaustion, unable to assert themselves or speak their truth, perfectionist tendencies. Then there's a leader ignoring their fear. So maybe they're just like opting out of opportunities altogether because it feels subconsciously, it feels scary. They may be over preparing always, over controlling, and really exhausting themselves just to feel safe. Or a leader with unprocessed stress, easily overwhelmed, irritable or aggressive, feeling of loss of control. It can develop into insomnia, concentration, or memory problems. And when prolonged, it can lead to depression, anxiety, and burnout. And we often label these as personality traits. Oh, they're just not a confident person. They're lazy. They're weak. They're not focused, a people pleaser, or even we label ourselves this way. But none of these are fixed traits. They are learned responses to unmet needs, and they can change. Procrastination, hesitation, overwhelm, low confidence, far from being character flaws, these are just signals of stress and emotions that haven't been processed yet, and in some cases, of stories about ourselves that haven't been updated yet. And when they are, leadership, confidence, and health really transform. And I just want to point out that this really is for everyone. So, for some leaders, the work begins with the foundation. It's self-esteem, confidence, self-trust, learning to meet and process emotions and stress, and build internal safety. But for others, the work is about capacity because success expands what life demands: more visibility, responsibility, uncertainty, and complexity. Think of a CEO who now all of a sudden has thousands of employees that are looking to them. Growth can require moving through what we genuinely fear without a guarantee of success. And for many, that is subconsciously terrifying. So even for the smartest leaders or CEOs, nervous systems weren't designed for constant expansion without support. 55% of CEOs experienced a mental health issue last year, and it's no surprise. The issue is not that we want to be avoiding stress at all. We want to be building capacity to handle more of discomfort and more of life. And the uncomfortable truth, as I see it, 40% of employees experience a lot of stress the previous day. And this is 50% in North America. Every single leader needs strong internal foundations to be resilient, handle pressure, and work well. Most leaders have just never been taught how to support themselves at that level. So this is not just for a select few. This really is for the modern workforce. And I love this quote from the trauma educator, which says, a lot of people don't look traumatized because their trauma taught them to never look like they're struggling. Trauma and chronic stress can also turn into trauma. And we often tend to think of trauma as these big life events, but it's expected that like 70 to 90% of people have experienced some sort of trauma. And trauma can physically change your brain structure and function. It reprograms your neural pathways to prioritize survival. So again, the issue is not that we have to avoid life, it's that we have to support ourselves through it and our workforce. I love this quote because there's still so much stigma around mental health and support and getting support. And I think this just is so powerful. There's still a false belief that if a CEO or C-suite leader shows signs of struggle, it will erode confidence in their leadership. But in truth, facing mental health challenges is part of the human condition, and the strongest leaders are the ones who recognize when they need support and take action. So this is what we want to be cultivating in the corporate culture. We want leaders to know that when they need support, they should be actively taking action around that. Because as we see it, performance is way more than skills. It's a state. Society is often measuring performance as output. We're just, oh, meetings attended, hours at work, deliverables delivered. But it's easy to take a lot of action that doesn't add much value or hold complexity and uncertainty. The kind of success that we want that creates genuine competitive advantage requires a different kind of capacity, critical thinking, and the resilience to hold complexity, uncertainty, and constraints without collapsing. People need the capacity to trust themselves and believe in their value, even in ambiguity or when things don't go to plan. Stay clear, empathetic, and decisive under pressure, not reactive. Communicate effectively and be able to hold different perspectives and complexity without collapsing or simplifying everything. Stay optimistic and believe in possibilities, not just what's proven or logical. Lead themselves first through their fears, shames, sadness, disappointments, so they can lead others well. And then set goals and have conviction. Make bold decisions without self-criticism when things don't go to plan. The second piece that is affecting all of this, we believe, is modern pressure. So the modern market is not making this easier. It's making it much harder. So AI is actually increasing decision load. It's not reducing it. As AI handles more of the doing, it's doubling the deciding. And research is showing that AI integration is actually accelerating burnout. Plus, the modern workplace keeps the nervous system in survival mode. Low-grade fight or flight, sustained across a full working day, quietly erodes the cognitive capacity leaders need to think clearly, decide wisely, and lead well. They can stay stuck in fear-based thinking and worry instead of possibility and trust. This is why sometimes people say, oh, well, in the past, we didn't need these kinds of things. But the environment today is very different. We are constantly at work. We are constantly attached to our phones, and it's just a different environment completely. Then the skills AI can't replace are the ones that matter most. According to McKinsey, as technical skills are becoming automated, demand for social and emotional skills will grow by 26% by 2030. Grow 26% by 2030. And then there's a leadership confidence gap that is widening. So the gap between how leaders rate their own effectiveness versus how their teams perceive them has grown by 75% since 2019. Leaders are becoming way less confident. And I just wanted to share, I love this quote from Nicola Tangent. He's the CEO of the world's largest sovereign wealth fund. And he says, the most important skills in the age of AI are the ability to talk, to listen, and to really empathize, which have always been important, but now more than ever. And all this is capping companies' growth because without supporting the deeper layers, people don't rise to their goals or potential. They shrink to their unprocessed emotions and stress, the limits of what their nervous system feels safe holding, and the subconscious beliefs shaping how they show up, lead, and perform. And one of the challenges in this space is that I believe that we think about mental health in way too narrow of a way. So at WonderSource, we talk about mental fitness because we think it's about way more than just supporting people through a crisis. It's about supporting people in how they think, how they feel, and really how they show up at work. So what we propose is we want to be bringing people from reactive patterns to expanded capacity and then really to embodied self-leadership. So again, much more than just when giving people the tools for when they're struggling. We want to build leaders who have the tools to thrive, to trust themselves, to believe in themselves, to believe in possibilities. So I'll just kind of quickly talk about in the reactive patterns, people are often stress cycles on repeat, fear-based decision making, it's reactive leadership, often stuck in worst case scenario thinking. The nervous system is focused on protection from pain, discomfort, or bruise to the ego, not possibility, and so they stay small. Then the next level is expanding their capacity. Here, people start to realize that they have more potential and control over their experience. There's an openness to possibility, courage to try something new and face fears and discomfort, and goals start to feel more possible. And then really embodied self-leadership is what we want to be bringing people to, where wins start to feel more inevitable. People stop seeing everything as a threat and start seeing challenges as opportunities. They've started to build internal safety, which has replaced constant vigilance. They are no longer tying their worth or safety to money or to certain titles. Goals are no longer about survival. They're expressions of purpose, contribution, and possibility. They think, wouldn't it be amazing if, without being attached to when or how to mean something about them. And so most companies are trying to improve performance at the surface, but performance is really a reflection of where people are operating from on this spectrum. And the ROI of investing in your people's skills and inner capacity is huge. So, according to McKinsey, S&P 500 companies that excel at return on talent generate 300% more revenue per employee versus the median firm. So, the incentive is huge, right? Then McKinsey also found that a 1 point increase in workplace well-being score correlates with up to 2.29 billion higher annual profits in large firms. High trust workplace cultures produce 3.5x higher stock returns and 3.68 market outperformance. And leaders with high resilience are 3.5x more engaged and 4x more innovative. Now, not investing strategically in your people's inner capacity isn't a cost saving, it's a competitive disadvantage, as you can see here. So now I'm going to share like what can we actually do about this? What companies must do to reach the next level? So, firstly, you want to be hiring experts that support the root layers of performance and health, the things, the areas that we talked about. So, subconscious programs and beliefs work, the ability to process emotions and stress in a healthy way, understanding the nervous system and how it works, building internal safety around that, mindset, soft skills and leadership, identity work. Then you want to appreciate and value your employees. So, 79% of people who quit their jobs cite a lack of appreciation as the reason for leaving, and only 20% of people cite pay as the reason for leaving. So intentional well-being and L&D solutions make a tangible difference in showing your employees that you care about them, that you value their well-being, their development. And then you want to develop and value psychological safety. According to Google, the best performing teams are psychologically safe. Also, we want to choose realness and depth over optics. So, burnout is also an organizational design problem. Leaders in well-designed environments are 14% more likely to be thriving. And part of the fix is restructuring workload, span of control, and support so the role itself becomes sustainable. Now, at WonderSource, we're more focused on supporting the people. I know just saying like lower the workload can be can be a challenge with different priorities, but that is something you want to basically, if you're putting out well-being programs, you also want to show in other ways that you genuinely value them, of course. Then we want to normalize inner growth. So I can't tell you how many times people have told me of all age brackets, both genders, that they would love to use their company's mental well-being solutions, but they feel like they will be judged if they do. And I find that's such a crazy, sad thing because employees who do inner work think clearer and bigger and create more psychologically safe environments. Like athletes, elite athletes are training their psychology, they're training their brains, they're doing mindset work, all of these things, not because there's something wrong with them, but because they know how much potential they have. This is the same mentality we need to be bringing to the workplace, where we also are putting a lot of stress on ourselves. So we want to be normalizing inner growth. Then we also want to be listening, genuinely listen to what employees want and value, and when possible, act on it. Show that you care. And finally, depth and value. So mindfulness apps and one-off breathwork sessions can be supportive, but they don't reach the deeper layers. Real transformation requires repetition, root level work, and science-backed modalities combined with regular practice. And I just wanted to add something here because psychologically safe teams are so important. So here are a few things you can do to build psychologically safe environments. So firstly, you want to encourage equal participation, ensure all voices are heard, reward risk-taking, recognize team members for proposing bold ideas, even if they don't work out, so people feel safe to make bold decisions in the future. You want to connect work to purpose, help team members see the broader impact of their efforts, model vulnerability, share your own mistakes and lessons, learn to create a culture of openness. We do sometimes get questions on that, but you can always email questions after if you have. And then foster feedback. So create a safe space for constructive criticism and use it as a tool for growth. The cornerstone of the most successful teams is psychological safety. Google did an extensive research on this, and the one thing they found that was the most important ingredient was psychological safety. And it begins with leadership modeling healthy practices and demonstrating empathy. Now, here are three things leaders can do, regardless of what tools or programs your organization has. These are three things you can take into your day-to-day life and start supporting your own leadership and your own well-being. I've been studying the subconscious mind, different mindset, trauma-informed coaching, all kinds of healing modalities. And here are what I believe we can all be taking right now to really, really support ourselves. So firstly, you want to be increasing your inner safety and self-leadership. So notice when you seek external approval or validation, and then validate and approve of yourself, your choices, your goals, emotions instead. We cause so much stress and so much suffering for ourselves when we are constantly looking to others, looking to milestones, looking to promotions, looking to our loved ones to validate us, when instead we need to be building the habit of doing it for ourselves, like even our emotions. Another thing is, so when triggered, you can ask, this next exercise can sound simple, but if you take the time to do this when you are present with yourself and present with your experience, this can rewire subconscious limiting programs. So when you're triggered, you can ask, or what am I making this mean about myself or the world? And this will reveal a limiting truth, a core wound. Is it the ultimate truth? No. So I'm going to give you an example. Let's say someone is in a meeting and they were being talked over and they feel very triggered. And then they say, what am I making this mean about myself or the world? And in their case, it's my needs don't matter. From childhood, they have this story that my needs don't matter because they had a sibling where they had different mental health challenges and the a lot of the attention went to that sibling, let's say, okay, or physical health challenges. And so they're making different things in the world validate that truth that they've already decided in childhood. So, what am I making this mean about myself or the world when that person spoke over me that my needs don't matter? So, is it the ultimate truth? No, of course not. These are stories we created in childhood before we had the capacity to ask if they were true or if they served us. And we get to Okay, great question, Kira. I love that. So yes, definitely just taking like when I first started to do this, I would maybe take a few minutes and go to the bathroom possibly, or I would do it later in the day. And you could just take a few minutes to breathe, connect to your body, and go through these questions. Now that I've been doing it so much, I can like run it through my head in 90 seconds and just move on from it. So it is so powerful. But yes, exactly. You can take if you have a few moments, you can go into another room, just take a few breaths, land in your body, and then run through these questions. So, is it the ultimate truth that my needs don't matter because someone spoke over me in a meeting? Of course not. Someone in the exact same situation would have a completely different meaning, possibly wouldn't even think twice about it. So, it's not the ultimate truth. It's just reflecting a story that you have. So, what else could be true? That, of course, my needs matter, and someone talking over me in a meeting doesn't say anything about my value or whether my needs matter or not. And then, what do I choose to believe going forward as a conscious, mature, loving adult? That my needs matter, and someone speaking over me has nothing to do with my value or my needs. So, again, this is very powerful, and it is, yeah, it's definitely something to have in your toolkit. The next thing is we want to build pressure capacity. So before your next big meeting, ask, am I in my body or disconnected? And what do I need right now to feel safe? We are often disconnected from ourselves. And when we start to connect, we can meet those parts of ourselves and build more safety. Another thing we can do is practice a daily 2-minute visualization. So you want to feel how you want to visualize and feel how you want to feel. Maybe you have a presentation coming up, so you can visualize yourself going through that meeting, going through that presentation, confident, trusting, relaxed. Or maybe you just want to visualize yourself as the leader that you know yourself to be, who can handle challenges with ease, who can make decisions decisively, who can trust themselves. This is a very powerful thing to create new neural pathways that are associated with the level of confidence of whatever you want to create. And then start to stay connected to yourself and on your side. This one is so important. Cut out self-judgment. We think self-judgment, subconsciously, we often think it's like helping us, but it's really, really stressing us out and it doesn't serve anything. We're much better off being compassionate to ourselves. So even 30 seconds of deliberate self-compassion regulates you and will change the quality of what comes next. If you can practice being present with yourself a couple times during the day and notice maybe you're ruminating about something or you're feeling stressed about something, just be compassionate to yourself. And building that habit is so, so powerful for yourself. And then we want to break your belief ceiling. So name one action you've been avoiding and ask yourself, what would I do if I weren't afraid? What would I do if success were guaranteed? And what decision would my 80-year-old self be proud of? We are often on autopilot in our days and we don't realize, but fear and worry feel responsible, but they're actually just keeping you small. Confidence and opportunities come from taking action before we feel fully ready or have all the answers. So there will be discomfort if we're stretching ourselves. There will always be discomfort. And I just wanted to add this part. We often think overthinking is being responsible, like, oh, we just need to think a little bit more. But really, when we have it happens when we haven't yet learned how to feel safe without controlling the outcome. So rather than, you know, overthinking and thinking we need to have the perfect answer, which just doesn't exist, we want to build that internal safety to feel safe without controlling every outcome because we don't actually have control over every outcome like we think we do. Okay. So I've shared a lot of different things. And as I said, there are a lot of amazing experts that you can hire to do this deeper work with your teams. They are doing things on nervous system, subconscious programs, all these things. But what I found is that it to get to these deeper layers of health and performance, you have to piece a lot of different things together. So I hadn't found a single solution that is both deep and practical and supports people in the moment with things that they're really dealing with, like let's say fear that comes up, or processing stress in a healthy way, or supporting themselves with a hypnosis for the presentation they have coming up and that helps them create lasting shifts in how they think, feel, and operate over time. So, real shifts like in the nervous system, in their subconscious programs. So, we start looking at those stories about not being enough or unworthiness and the solution that was still accessible and scalable for a company. So, this is why I built WonderSource. I hadn't found something that was actually accessible and scalable and deep enough and practical. And this is why I built it. And so I'll just talk briefly about what WonderSource is and what we do here. So what sets us apart? Firstly, we're a platform. We have different tiers, but at the core is a platform. And what sets us apart is that everything is grounded in neuroscience, mindset, somatics, and psychology. So it's changing behavior, not just understanding. We have a daily practice library that includes tapping, hypnosis, yoga nidra, and meditations for stress, sleep, confidence, emotional processing, and so much more, and tools used by some of the world's highest performers. We have science-backed courses, nervous system mastery, identity, human design for building self-awareness, leadership, confidence, and more. We have future-ready soft skills. We actually have an AI mindset course coming very soon. Um, I'm sure you've heard that a lot of companies are investing in AI, but they're not getting the ROI that they want. So this course is designed to support employees, to support leaders with the foundation so that they can excel at using the AI solutions. Then communication, creativity, decision making, navigating complexity, and problem solving, built for real work challenges. And what I found, and which is why I built WonderSource, was that a lot of programs aren't creating change. So they can raise awareness, workshops, talks, a few counseling sessions, but they're treating the symptoms of stress and burnout, and they're not providing a way to create change over time. I just wanted to share, like, treat the symptoms of stress and burnout. So, for example, in that case where I explained, let's say someone has that story of my needs don't matter. If they did a breath work session after, that could be helpful, of course. You know, all of these different modalities are super helpful, but it wouldn't help them get to the root, which is that they have a story that says my needs don't matter, and they are constantly seeing that in the world. So what we want to be doing is actually getting to the root, and then that can change the whole experience. So WonderSource was built for mental fitness for lasting change. We allow employees to have repetition because this is how the brain rewires stress programs. We work at the root level. We combine science-backed modalities with daily practice. And what this means, for example, daily practice is, let's say someone is going through quite a stressful period. They might come and do a tapping video on stress several days in a row. Or let's say they're dealing with, a lot of fear, a lot of anger, they may come and do that tapping video. There's also hypnosis. There's different types of things that they can come back to and in the moments when they need them or to build new empowering beliefs, new solid foundations over time. So we are helping leaders remove the limits that cap their health and performance because this is where real transformation begins. And we are building capacity at the root level, not just awareness. So now I've touched on this in a few ways, but yeah, just to say, so we go to nervous system resilience. It's grounded in polyvagal theory and somatic science. There's subconscious reprogramming. We're addressing the 95% of thought and behavior that runs below conscious awareness. It changes the patterns driving performance, not just the surface symptoms. Emotional and stress processing capacity with, like I said, EFT tapping, hypnosis, yoga nidra, and then leadership, communication, and soft skills, communication, empathy, decision making, because it all works together to build confidence, to build healthy systems. So who this is for: companies, banks, funds, startups that are growing and operating at a high level or navigating complexity and know that what's holding their people back isn't just strategy, but internal capacity, pressure, mindset, and the way that their people relate to all of it. And your workforce walks away with the expanded capacity to hold uncertainty, the ability to process stress and difficult emotions in real time, stronger conviction, clarity, and self-trust, elevated empathy, listening, and communication, a shift from pressure always to possibility, a more expansive relationship to wealth, success, and what's available to them, and the awareness and foundations to support their health and sustain performance. Also, we get results. Here are some examples of what our clients have experienced in the past. 86% improved their confidence as a leader. 86% regularly used WonderSource to support their mental health. 95% had greater self-awareness, and 95% improved work relationships. This is what can happen when people feel genuinely supported with intentional solutions. Oxford research found that companies with higher well-being scores consistently outperform the market, have higher valuations and greater profits. And it's true across industries and predictive of future performance. And also from McKinsey, they found that for every $1 invested in scalable workplace mental health and well-being interventions, it can yield up to a $5 return in improved productivity, reduced absenteeism, and lower healthcare costs. And then finally, just to sort of summarize all this, I love this quote from Ali Schulman because it really gets to the root of what we're talking about here. She's a VP of people and culture at SoundCloud. And she says, the biggest gap I see is in the soft stuff. Companies will spend real money on AI tools, new org structures, performance frameworks, and then wonder why nothing sticks. And the answer is almost always the same. People don't know how to process change, conflict, or uncertainty in a healthy way, and nobody taught them. And that's what we want to do here. We want to teach people to build this solid foundation, to build the tools to support themselves. And I'm just going to add this other quote from her because I thought it was very powerful. And I know often HR is bought into these types of programs, but it can sometimes be, it might be more of a challenge with leadership. So she says, HR leaders often have the right instincts, but instincts don't unlock budget. What unlocks budget is walking into a room and saying, here's what our engagement data showed last quarter, here's where it's trending, and here's what it'll cost us if we don't act now. Teams get resource from the top, and executives respond to urgency they can see. So I thought that was a powerful quote. So if the invisible layer is what determines how well everything else works, what are you doing to build it? So if you would like to explore this further, you can book a leadership consultation call. I'm going to include a Calendly link in the chat box here. And thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you being here. And I'd love to have any questions if you have. I'm going to follow up with the recording as well.